Thanks, Mark. I have a question from Yvonne. Of the CTA, who takes or becomes the team prime?
Well, thanks for that question, Yvonne. This goes back to the privity issue that we discussed with. So, in terms of CTAs, each team member is a prime contractor on that BPA or on that task order. So they have privity of contract with the government. They have a legal relationship with us. But what does happen, and is pretty common with contractor teaming arrangements, is sometimes the contractors decide that they want to have a team lead to handle some of the administrative things like invoice and payment, or sometimes the government does encourage that there be a team lead. The team lead does not affect the fact that all the team members are prime contractors. They're just serving as a team lead, and they might serve as a single focal point for the government for general communication and for some administrative matters.
Thanks, Mark. The next question's from Anthony. It's a fairly involved question. If a furniture contractor is awarded SIN 71-204 dormitory furniture and 71-205 chairs, is that contractor permitted to provide refrigerators, pool tables, window treatments, wall art, etc. under teaming arrangements with multiple schedule holders? Or would this type of procurement be made under the packaged room SIN 71-200?
Well, thank you, Anthony. That question is certainly a deep dive into our furniture schedules. Kind of want to go back to a little bit of the fundamentals in terms of the scope of the statement of work defines the scope of the requirement. So it should fit up. It may fit up under multiple SINs like you identified under a particular schedule. And then it's up to the GSA schedule contractors to provide a solution that meets that requirement. So they should be providing an arrangement and be providing everything off of their GSA schedule contract. So there shouldn't be any teaming partner that is providing anything that is not on their GSA schedule contract. So I think that's the key there, is that each team member must be providing items that are on their GSA schedule contract.
Oh, thanks, Mark. And everyone, we're coming pretty close to the hour here. It's almost 3:30, so I could probably take a couple more questions via chat here. Then I'd like to open up the phone line if there's any additional. And, of course, you can always email me at david.orcutt, that's ORCUTT, at gsa.gov if you have additional questions. Mary has another question. She says, it sounds like CTAs could be an invoicing and IFF reporting nightmare if personnel on the overall team work on a task order requiring multiple SINs covered by the prime and CTAs. Differentiating which personnel work on what subtasks under which SINs belonging to which CTA, yikes. Am I making this more complicated than it really is?
Well, I think, Mary, you're pointing out to some of the challenges there are with contractor teaming arrangements, and I think it's important that the planning happen up front. So we talked about a couple of things in the presentation about the keys to making teaming successful on industry side. One is having that arrangement clearly define roles and responsibilities, who's going to perform what, and have a good, solid arrangement. Then obviously, in terms of like any other team that you have, communication is critical. So communicating and all that. But I do think the way scenarios can be mitigated is that we have, industry puts together a well-documented arrangement that clearly outlines roles and responsibilities, who's going to provide what, and then having that communication during the administration and performance of the order so that they are not running into situations where they're not meeting the requirements, either the order or their respective contracts.
Thanks, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yep.
last question via chat. Julie, I have seen where an agency has not been made aware of the CTA. However, the contractor can demonstrate the use of a CTA. If something happens with one of the teaming partners, who is ultimately responsible if the agency was not made aware of the CTA? Is it treated as a prime-sub relationship at that point?
Well, Julie, thanks for that question. I think that kind of depends on the nature of it. I mean, if the vendor's performing is proposing a teaming arrangement, they should provide you a copy of the teaming arrangement. And we noted that there is GAO case law that says if they don't provide an adequate teaming arrangement for you to evaluate, then the government could rightly deny them an award. In that case, it sounded like to me that it sounded like prime and there was subcontracting, because my hope is that contractor is providing everything within the scope of their contract, because if they propose on something and they didn't disclose that it was a teaming arrangement and it's not on their scheduled contract, it could be construed as they were providing stuff outside the scope of their contract. So it does really depend on the more specifics of the situation, but it sounds like some cases where some people do confuse teaming with subcontracting, and so I think it's really important for, in those scenarios, kind of review back to that diagram that we went over in the course, because I think that really does give, for your visual learners out there, a good picture tutorial of what the difference between teaming and subcontracting is.
Thanks for that clarification, Mark. Do we have any questions with folks on the phone? Does anyone want to ask a verbal question now? You have to click off mute if you want to ask a question. Okay, well, I just want to thank you, Mark, for taking the time to educate us about contractor team arrangements and the comprehensive presentation today. Again, everyone, if you want to learn more about CTAs, you can always go to gsa.gov/CTA. We'll be giving this presentation again on December 8th at the same time at 2:30. Please go to interact.gsa.gov to learn about our future webinars, and we post our recordings of webinars there as well. So thank you, everyone, for participating today. Thank you, Mark.
And David, I do want to mention that if folks are available, that we do have a student guide of the presentation today, so I just want to encourage all the folks participating that feel free to download that student guide, and it does have some of the notes from the presentation, and so that is a good document to have as a handy reference in your future use of contractor teaming arrangements, either on the government side or on industry side.
Sure thing, Mark. Thank you for reminding me. I'll leave this pod open for folks to download the student guide here, and you can also download a copy of the presentation.